Hi everyone. Right, here we have a Kawasaki GPZ 500S petrol tank, also known as an EX500 to our American friends. So it's been suffering from rust particles in the carbs and blocking up the carburetors. So if you have a look inside, you can see there's quite a large amount of rust in there around the filler cap, and the inside was even worse. So to start off with, what I've done, I've drained the tank, let it dry, and removed as much of the rust particles as I could with a hoover. So I took a hoover attachment there, and with a bit of duct tape and a bit of normal garden hose pipe, managed to vacuum out as much of the dust as possible, and this is the result. As you can see, nice pile of dust. So the next stage is to get rid of all the remaining rust using electrolysis. So I've had a look on YouTube, ordered carbonate of soda, not bicarbonate of soda, that's for cooking. Right, so stage 2 of clearing this rusty GPZ 500S tank out. Let's see if we can just show you how rusty it is in there. Not too bad, but a good coating of surface rust still on the inside. So I've hoovered it out, got all the loose dust and stuff out. So now let's give it a blast with a hose and drain it out. So that's just to get rid of any leftover loose rust that's inside it, and I'll do that a couple of times before sealing it up. Alright, so this is the underside of the petrol tank, and that is where the petrol tap was fitted. So that's got to be sealed up, ready for me to fill it with the carbonate of soda and water mix. And for that I'm going to use good old duct tape. And there we have the duct tape covering the hole where the petrol tap is normally fitted. Some people say that you can leave the petrol tap in place. Personally, I don't want to do that, because I don't want any of the gunk that's going to be coming out of it going into the petrol tap and just creating more work. So good bit of duct tape on a nice clean surface, pressed down, should make it watertight. Right, so the next stage, now that the tank has been sealed underneath, is to get it as level as possible. And I'm just propping it up on an old oil bottle, so the top hopefully will be pretty level, because we're going to fill this right to the very top with the mixture that we're going to put in it. Now this is a sodium carbonate powder that I've got off eBay, pretty cheap, 500 grams. I think it was about £3.50, so that's about $5. And everywhere online seems to be saying to put 1 tablespoon of sodium carbonate per gallon of water. Well, the GPZ tank holds 4.8 gallons. So inside my bucket there is 5, I've used heaped tablespoons. So yeah, I've got enough spare. You know, a little bit more won't hurt it. So the next job is to mix that with some water and let it all dissolve. So there's the sodium carbonate dissolved. I've used a little bit of water in there, not the whole 4.8 gallons. So I'll top up with extra water. And now to fill it to the brim. Everyone says that this stuff doesn't harm the paintwork, so don't worry about it overflowing. Just make sure it's as full as you can get it. Now the next stage is to add an electric current through that mixture in the fuel tank. So what I've done, I've got an old Allen key, put it through the lid of an old coffee container, because you want this to sit in the liquid but not touch any of the metal of the petrol tank. So we're going to connect the positive feed of a 12 volt battery or a battery charger to the end of this as it sits in the fuel tank, and the negative feed we're going to connect to the fuel tank itself. So that sits nicely on the top of the tank, and the Allen key isn't touching any metal inside. Right, so I'm using a 12 volt battery with the positive going up to the Allen key sitting in the solution, and the negative is down there. I've cleaned a bit of paint off the tank, so we get a circuit. So in there I've got a multimeter pin and one in the top too, so you can see. So we've got 13 volts going through that solution that's in the petrol tank. Now some people say you can use a battery charger to do this, but a lot of the battery chargers are pretty smart, so they won't work. So what you have to do is use a battery. Now as this is going to be on for 24 hours, obviously the battery might start to lose its charge. So what I've done, I've linked up the battery charger so it is on continuous charge, so the battery doesn't lose its power. So I'll give it 5 minutes and we'll come back and have a look, see if there's been any effect. Right, so it's been 5 minutes now. So first thing I'm going to do, just disconnect the supply. That way when I move the top Allen key, it doesn't short out. And let's see what it's doing. Whoa. Well, already, as you can see, it's definitely doing something. There is a lot of gunk collecting around that. So I'm saying this is working. So I'm going to replace that, reconnect the terminal, and I'm going to leave it for an hour and we'll see what happens then. But so far so good. So this is after 1 hour, and well, looking good. Let's see. And that's the rod. Doesn't need to be topped up, so I'm going to replace it, reconnect, make sure we've got 12 volt supply, and carry on. So I've had this bubbling away for 8 hours now, and I've given it a rinse out. I've emptied all the solution out, rinsed it out with a hose, and this is the result. If you can see in there, all that rust that was originally there has gone, and it's pretty hard to see, but inside is really clean as well, so it works. So just to make sure that it's good inside, I'm going to let this dry out, and then I'm going to use a Petseal to seal the petrol tank, just in case the rust has worked its way through and made any pinholes anywhere. But for a cheap way of removing rust, that is pretty damn good.